probably be a lot outside. As you know, there's been a lot of moving earth about in the garden, and I think there's going to be starting laying the turf, so that would be really great. And there'll be things to do inside as well. So please do come along to the Sangha Works Day. Okay, so so we're coming very near the end of our theme, which is light in the darkness, which has been going for a long time. It might be going since Christmas, I think, I'm not sure. And this is the last full talk in the series. Next week, we're going to have a Buddhist ritual, a sevenfold puja, and then we're going to start a new series. And we've been in this theme, Buddhist advice for difficult times, light in the darkness, for some months, as I said, and we've finished with this mini series, which is about some of the slogans from the 7-point mind training system and how they can help us to practice both off and on the cushions. So what it gives us is slogans to remember, to learn. We can remember. So when we're in the thick of things, you know, we're in that kind of the rapids of everyday life where things are moving really fast. We can maybe look at our card that we've got from the different slogans and remember it. And by remembering it again and again and again and putting it into practice, it will transform our minds. Last week, we heard about the 5 forces, which are advice to follow when we want to change our unhelpful habits. And there'll be a chance in the group later to talk about how that went. So if you did have a go at doing it over the week, it'd be really great to hear in the group how it went. And before that, we heard a number of other slogans. We heard put all blames onto one, be grateful to everyone, and a number of other slogans. And this mind training is not just self-improving and becoming individually happier, though of course that will happen if we develop gratitude, if we take responsibility for our actions and become really aware as other people, as human beings. But as we've heard in the last talks, it's about radically changing the way that we see ourselves and the way we see reality. And sometimes that means that the slogans really challenge us to see the world in a very different way from how we do normally. And it's a method that if we put it into practice, put slogans into practice, it will have an effect on us. And this week's slogan that we're finishing with, in a way, underlies all of our practice. But before we look at that, let me tell you about something that happened last night. So, last night I was in Belfast and I went there for a new job, and I found that I was in a cafe at lunchtime meeting my new colleagues, and I was a bit shy, a bit nervous, these new people I was going to work with, and quite a lot of them I could describe to you quite vividly. Like there was this older guy with really big dark glasses, really dark hair. He had an English accent. He'd lived in Belfast for some years. And I could describe the other people as well. And, you know, a few unusual things happened. Like at one point we all joined a parade of people wearing pink. But basically, it all felt very real and very true to me. But of course, when I woke up this morning, I realized it was just a dream. And I was also very grateful because I hoped I'd have a good one to tell in the talk. But so I could go on about my dream and analyze what it means. You know, what does Belfast mean to me? What does a man wearing heavy glasses mean to me? But I think the point for this talk is that actually it felt completely real. But actually, it isn't true as far as I know. As far as I know, I wasn't in Belfast. I haven't got a new job there. So we have these experiences at night that seem completely real at the time, usually. But we wake up from them and we say, it was only a dream. So we might have been chased by monsters. We might have had a really horrible time. But we wake up and go, oh, phew, that was just a dream. Or it might have been really lovely. Maybe we were flying or we were swimming in beautiful water. But when we wake up, we go, oh, it was just a dream. So our slogan today is see all dharmas as dreamlike. So on the flip chart, I've put a little asterisk by the dharmas. And that's because it's slightly very confusing, actually, that in this slogan, the word dharmas is being used differently from how we normally use it. So you'll all have heard Dharma talked about as being the teaching of the Buddha, and it definitely means that, but it does mean other things as well. And in this context, it means all phenomena. Okay, all things that exist, all our experiences that kind of come and go. So the way that we're using dharmas in this particular slogan, it means phenomena. It doesn't mean necessarily, though it does include the Dharma of the Buddha that he taught. And so this slogan is saying, what would it be like if we saw everything in our daytime experiences as dreamlike? So we dream at night, we think it's real, but we wake up from that dream. Could we wake up from our normal daily consciousness and see that it too is dreamlike? One of the core teachings of the Buddha is the first 2 verses of the Dhammapada. Experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows, even as the cartwheel follows the hoof of the ox drawing the cart. Experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows like a shadow that never departs. So right there at the very beginning of the Dhammapada, experiences are created by our minds. But certainly my common experience is usually it feels like things are happening out there. I'm passively perceiving stuff. So, I'm in here and the person is being very annoying out there. Yeah. Or I'm in here and there's a very beautiful sunset out there. So normally that is how I see the world. And it can actually be very difficult to be aware of what I'm bringing to the experience. And this slogan, see all phenomena as dreamlike, is giving us a way to explore this. So to try out in our own experience, like all these slogans are, something we can remember when things that get difficult, so when it gets difficult, we can remember that we are bringing something to the experience ourselves. So just as our minds can create a world seemingly when we're asleep, so they do when we're awake. And it might be the same perceptual process as when we're dreaming, I don't know. But in a way, it doesn't actually matter because this slogan and the others we looked at are a method. They're a method. They're an attitude. So this attitude is, can I find freedom by seeing all phenomena as dreamlike? What would happen to us? How would our experience be different if we asked ourselves all the time, can I see this experience as being dreamlike? Although it feels real, it is not necessarily true. And another way you can look at this is you could say that we're all storytellers. It's how we try to make sense of the bewildering and confusing world that we live in which we're bombarded with so much information. And it's not just that we're bombarded with a lot of media, it's just like being in this room. There's so much experience coming into your being through your senses. There's what you can see, what you can hear, and you can't pay attention to all of it. So apparently even our perceptual understanding of the world is a story, you could say. Our senses have a huge amount of information coming in that they can't process. So apparently they do it often with wallpaper. They do tests where apparently your mind will kind of make up the wallpaper for you. And I don't know exactly how it works, but if you change the wallpaper, you won't notice because your mind's just kind of going, oh, the wallpaper's always been like that. And that's how it always is. So it's a bit like we're continually making up a lot of the visual information that comes in. The brain knows from past experience what things have looked like before, and it fills in gaps for us. And we don't just do that with visual things, we do it with words. I was in the Red Shrine Room yesterday morning where a few of us who work in different teams at the centre meet on a Monday morning to do a ritual together. And Machivasan was mumbling a bit, and he said something. He said to a couple of people, "You're in the grrr corner." And I heard that as they were in the greedy corner, and one of them heard it as they were in the greasy corner. I think Janet heard it as she was in the greasy corner. But actually what Machivasan had said was they were in the green corner because they were both wearing green jumpers. But it was really interesting, wasn't it? Like I heard greedy, somebody heard greasy, and actually, yeah, it was actually green. But you see what I mean? It's like our minds are continually jumping a bit to conclusions and making things up. And you probably had a similar experience that I remember having vividly once, where I was walking along, beautiful day, going for a lovely walk by a reservoir, and in a tree I could see this white shape, and I thought, oh wow, it's an owl. In the daylight I'm seeing an owl, that's amazing. And then I walked a bit nearer and I was like, oh no, it's a kite, it's a child's kite. That's still very beautiful, this white shape. And then I was like, oh, actually it's a plastic bag, it's a white plastic bag. But each of those I saw as if it was real. Do you see what I mean? I saw the owl, I saw the kite, and then I saw the plastic bag. It's like my mind told me that they were real. So I took part in a retreat online on Sunday, and we tried out an experiment. I thought we'd give it a go here. So if I can ask you to sit kind of in your meditation posture without moving too much. So just sitting, like if you're on the chair, just straightening yourself out, putting your feet on the floor. If you're on your cushion, just get you in a comfortable position. And then if you're happy to, just keep your eyes open, actually, keep your eyes open, but just become aware of your breathing. So the breath is coming in and out. Just allowing your body to calm down a little bit, your mind to calm down a bit. Okay, and then you are going to need to open your eyes for this because it is a visual exercise. So choose an object. So you might choose something on the shrine, you might choose one of the doors, one of the lights, an object that you can see in your attention, maybe the microphone or the camera, something at home. Just choose an object. So be clear what your object is. And really take in that object. Really take it in. So I'm just here with this microphone, and I'm just going to really take in the shape of the microphone. It's made of kind of plasticky metal, I think, black, the color of it, just taken in. There's a red light, taking in what it looks like. And then think, what a lovely object this is. So just think this microphone's fantastic. It does an amazing job, which it does. It really changed our lives at the Buddhist Center when we got this microphone. It's really lovely. So think whatever your object is that you're looking at, think of it the best that you can. Tell a story about it, how lovely it is, how wonderful it is. And then notice how it looks to you. Okay, and now become aware of how horrible the object is, how awful it is, and how awful it's been to you. Like, these microphones are really bad, you know, because they have like loose connections. They're quite expensive. We have to keep buying them. It's a really awful microphone. In fact, it's quite often ruined quite people's talks, and it's ruined people's lives, I would say. So really be extreme with your object. Really hate your object, okay? It's really ruined your life. How does it look to you visually? Okay, I think we should finish with a bit of love for the object, because actually this is a great microphone and I don't hate it at all. I do love it. So yeah, just give your object a little bit of love as well. Okay, so how did things look when you did that exercise? Did things look at all different to anybody? Just be really great to hear from you if it did. Yeah, go on. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. So what's your name? Ron. Siobhan. I've got really bad hearing, so my apologies. So what Siobhan said was she was looking at a flower on the shrine. And when she was like, you know, loving the flower, it looked very beautiful. And then when we talked about hating the object, it looked like it just sort of shriveled up and wilted a bit. Is that right? And did it come back again when you brought some love to... Sorry, what did she say? Not as much. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. But I think that's happened to me as well. Okay, but so some people will have had that experience as well, and some people won't. But I think if you have, it's really interesting. I found it really strong that just by thinking differently about a neutral object, whether I loved it or hated it, actually visually looked different to me. You know, it shows how we do really, how perceptions really, can be changed about how the stories we tell about things. Okay. Yeah, so to be a sentient being is to be creating these stories, actually, to be a storyteller, a dreamer, interpreting the world. And as humans, we just really do a lot of that. And we are, in some way, creating our world all the time. So I don't know how many people there are in the hall or at home, but there are like maybe 60 people altogether. So there are 60 versions of this talk happening. Yeah, because depending on your mood, your temperament, what you bring to this, what you think about me, what you think about the Buddhist Center, whatever, you're going to be experiencing a different talk. So we can't say that there is one real talk, if you see what I mean. Objectively, of course, we'll film it and there'll be something there, but your experiences are all different of it. I just want to throw in a bit of clarity about this, though, because there's a really helpful saying that some of the Buddha's ideas are like a snake. If you pick them up wrongly, they'll bite you and poison you. And seeing all perceptions as dreamlike is one that can be a bit misinterpreted, because it's not saying that things don't exist. Okay, this microphone does exist. What it's saying is they don't simply exist from their own side, that we bring our perceptual processes, our experience of life. We see the world through our lenses. And this slogan is saying that just as our mind can create dreams, very real experiences at night, so our mind is creating the world that we're in. But it's definitely not saying that things or people don't exist. They do. They do. It's just they don't exist in the way that we think they do. And nor is this slogan saying that suffering, our own or others, don't exist, or that because it's dreamlike, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use, Paranisha just told me a really good thing, which was that, like if someone's having a nightmare and they're suffering, well, you'd wake them up to get them out of their nightmare. Do you see what I mean? Suffering is painful. We want to stop suffering. So this is not saying that suffering doesn't matter. It's saying that suffering comes from, sometimes part of suffering comes from creating a version of events that is causing that suffering, adding to that suffering. So I'm just going to briefly have a look at how we can approach this slogan from 4 different perspectives, very briefly. So what if we see ourselves as dreamlike, if we see other people as dreamlike, if we see the world we live in as dreamlike, and we see reality itself as dreamlike. So seeing ourselves as dreamlike, the first of the 4. Well, we believe all sorts of things about ourselves that are real to us, but they're not true. So just like a dream. And they affect us and they can make our suffering worse, often make a very difficult situation worse. We think we're a certain kind of person and then we behave in accordance with these stories. And so it's just because we think or feel something, it doesn't mean it's real and we have to believe it. So I'm going to say it again. Just because we think something or we have a particular emotion or we feel something, it doesn't mean it's real and it doesn't mean we have to believe it. And that's really important. And of course, it's the basis of loads of psychological therapies. We don't have to believe our thoughts and our emotions, but they can be very persuasive, can't they? When you're in the grip of them, they can be very hard to remember that. And actually, people can really create nightmares for themselves. You know, an extreme example would be a person with anorexia, the starving person looking into a mirror and they see themselves as fat. You know, that is like a really awful example. And even if we don't have such extreme stories, we can really stop ourselves from being happy by the stories. So it might be useful to explore what are the stories that you tell yourself about yourself that it might be helpful to regard of having the nature of a dream, because actually they just lead to suffering and they restrict you. So you might have a story that you're not basically just not very likable. You're not basically a very good person. You're pretty bad. Or you might have a story that you're just really amazing and you really ought to be ruling the world because you're, really great. And actually, I seem to have both at different times. It's quite interesting. I can seem to hold both of the stories. And actually, we've kind of picked up these stories from things that people have told us, bits and pieces there, experiences we've had. And they can be contradictory, they can be bizarre, but they have an effect on us and they have effect on our life and on other people. They're unconscious often. We don't know that we're telling them to ourselves. And an important part of our spiritual growth is to bring those stories out into consciousness, to talk with friends, to go on retreat, to meditate, and to see what those stories are, and to interrogate them and ask ourselves, are they true? They might feel real, but are they true? Are they helpful? So if you're suffering from your own thoughts and feeling about yourself, and I think most of us do at some time, this slogan suggests you ask yourself, how would it be if I thought that all that was just a dream? I've thought I was rubbish and unlovable all my life, and it made me miserable and miserable to be around as well, actually. But it turns out it was just a dream. Hooray. I can wake up. Hooray. I mean, if only it was that easy, but it's like you can actually sometimes really see through these things, and it can feel like, wow, I've really seen through a view that is not true. So that's a little bit about ourselves. The second area is seeing other people as dreamlike. So other people are very complicated, just as we are, and our communication with other people can be so confusing and lead to lots of suffering, our own and theirs. So I think it's really important that if we're having a difficulty with somebody, also if we think somebody's really amazing, actually, we might ask the question is, what's going on here? Is it actually true? Do I, for instance, know somebody's motivation that I'm ascribing to them? Is it because of my own history that they're triggering me? Am I projecting onto them my own good qualities or my own bad qualities? Not speculating so much. So I guess it's thinking like, this is a dream I'm creating if this relationship with this person is not going well. I don't know who they are. I don't really know who I am. But can I just wake up from this dream that this person is so annoying or irritating or whatever it is, and see them as the very complicated, conditioned being that they are, the potential Buddha that they are. So like all of us, everybody has the potential to develop and grow. So rather than a nightmare in which people are like horrible, we could try and work towards having a lovely dream in which we see the potential in everybody. So the third area is seeing the dreamlike qualities of how we see the world. So by this, I mean like the kind of the stories we have about the world we live in, the society we live in, how it should be. And we'll have loads of views from childhood or from our schooling or whatever that we've picked up. You know, some people come with a story that's a very scary world. Some people have this idea it's like a really amazing world waiting to be explored. Some people will have a story that this world, really rewards all these good, hard-working people with happy and prosperous lives. Other people will go, it's really unfair, and the rich are trying to rob the poor. Just what I mean. There's just loads of views, and there are many more that I'm not going to go into. And actually, these stories that we've picked up will create their own realities. And actually, in a way, this is sometimes the hardest area for me, because it's like just the waters I swim in. You know, my own particular kind of political views that I have, that I was actually brought up on, really, really hard for me not to see them as being the truth and other people's political views as being wrong. Because often I just don't even know that I've got a view. Do you see what I mean? I just kind of think that is the way it's true. And actually, there's been an exhilaration for me in my Buddhist life about really trying to explore those ideas. I had a lot of resistance, and I still do sometimes, but a lot of resistance. But then there's an exhilaration about, well, I don't have to have the same views of people around me. I can try and work out what I think about things. And I guess, what we could do with this is whenever we do find ourselves having really strong emotional views about something, about what those people should be doing, we could kind of think, well, could I wake up out of this dream? What am I assuming? What am I simplifying in my opinions and views? What am I presuming that I know here? So we could just can we come out of the dream of that? Then the last one is stories about reality itself. So what is the nature of reality? Can we see it as dreamlike? So there's a collection of old Buddhist texts, called the Perfection of Wisdom texts. And they include the Dharma and Suture, which is another key Buddhist text. And there's a beautiful quote from that, which says, "So should one view all the floating world, a drop of dew, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning, a star at dawn, a phantom and a dream." So this is how we should see the world: a drop of dew, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning, a star at dawn, a phantom and a dream. Which of course is like where Shakespeare says in The Tempest, we are such stuff as dreams are made on. So the world is impermanent, it's insubstantial, and we are dreaming a world where things seem fixed in themselves and have an essential self. If you've done a sevenfold puja, you will have done the Heart Suture. The Heart Suture is one of these texts as well, one of the Perfection of Wisdom text. And we're going to do a sevenfold puja next week. So we will recite the Heart Suture in the puja. And it's a really mind-blowing bit of the puja. Because in the Heart Suture, what we recite is that things don't exist as we think they do. Our senses, all our experiences don't exist in the way that we think. They are all shunyata. Shunyata can be translated as emptiness of inherent existence. They're mysterious. They're pregnant with potential. If we try and put them into anything in words, when we try to describe it in words, when we try to pin it down, we'll lose how we experience it. And interestingly, in the Heart Sutra, we also read out some of the key Buddhist teachings, like the Four Noble Truths. And in the Heart Sutra, we say that they're also empty as well. So is it saying that these Buddhist teachings don't matter? It's not, I don't think. But it's saying that they're kind of a story as well. That the real experience is so much more than the report of the experience, and that we need to hold lightly to even the Buddhist truths, even the key Buddhist teachings. We need to hold lightly to them because we're human. And so we have such a tendency to make things concrete and literal, to try and fix everything. And it is by nature not fixable. So the dream we're in is one where we can put everything in neat categories and fix it. But what the Heart Suture is saying, we can't do that. Our experience is impermanent, it's flowing, it doesn't have an essential self to it. So I guess the question I have is like, would enlightenment be not having any dreams or stories? And I don't know. Whether it might be actually that you'd be seeing through the stories, the dreaming as it arises. But I don't know. I think what we can do is we can try and work towards having more positive dreams, as it were. We are going to have the stories about the world, and we can try and work out ones that are nearer the truth and also ones that are helpful. Sangharakshita talks about we move from wrong view through to right view, which is having a sense of things before we can actually get to finally just not really having any views at all, or having an understanding of reality. So a couple of things to bear in mind. So as I said before, it's not saying that it's all a dream, so it doesn't matter what we do. And it's not saying that isn't a reality, because like if we get hit by a bus, that is pretty significant and it will have real consequences. It's not like we can kind of go, oh, I don't want there to be a bus, and I don't want to have a broken leg. Do you know what I mean? It's like that is not. But what we can change is the story that might go, I've got a broken leg and therefore my life is ruined. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to be in pain forever. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. Do you see what I mean? We could look at our stories and could go, well, I don't know what's going to happen with this leg. Do you see what I mean? It's like you can try and be with what's happening at the time rather than doing the stories about it. Okay, so I just thought I'd finish with a few things that might come out of some consequences of seeing the dreamlike nature of all dharmas. So the first is it gives us possible freedom. If we are seeing what's going on in a bit of a looser way, that perhaps it's not as real as it looks. So this could be like the lucid dreaming that some people learn to do in dreams or do naturally, that we're aware we're dreaming. We're in the dream, we know we're dreaming, and we can make choices. So we can be like Neo in the Matrix, okay? We can be part of the delusion and we can work with it. And we might not be able to do it to the extent that we just slow down time and we dodge all those bullets, and maybe we don't wear those really cool clothes. But we can be aware that things aren't necessarily what they seem to be, that we are dreaming. That's one thing. Another thing is we can imagine ourselves a different reality. We don't have to be limited by our society and upbringing. We can choose how we respond to our experience. We can reframe. So if something it feels scary, a lot of anxiety, you might go, oh, this is exciting. You're doing something for the first time, going somewhere, traveling or something. You might think, I'm really scared. You might think, actually, this is really exciting. Or you might think, someone says, would you give a talk at Sangha night? And you go, I'm not the kind of person that can do that. Well, you think, okay, here is an opportunity to find new resources in myself. You can look at it a different way. You could be thinking, oh God, I'm so overworked. I'm so overwhelmed with what I'm doing. And then you can go, okay, but I'm actually really helping the situation as well. So we can reframe things. And there's lots of other reframing we can do. Another thing we can do is when we are experiencing adversity, we can ask ourselves, is this all adversity, if that makes sense? Is all my experience at the moment awful? This might not work with huge things, I think, when you're really overwhelmed by suffering. But when there are small things, a classic example, of course, is people's experience of the first lockdown, where some people just really enjoyed time to enjoy nature, not rush around as much, as well, of course, as experiencing all the difficulties that come from isolation, etc. I'm not denying those, but I'm saying it wasn't all a really awful experience. That's a story we can tell ourselves. We can catastrophize. This is all really awful. We can ask ourselves, does this situation give me an opportunity to grow? Which in a way, all this series has been about. It's all been like, can we use this adversity, which is going to happen whether we like it or not, as an opportunity to grow? Can we do some spiritual bodybuilding and build up those muscles? So there's a thing in the Bodhicharya Avatar, which is about start by just being patient with the mosquitoes and gnats biting you, and then you can gradually build up to more. So it's a bit like when things don't go our way, we can kind of use that as an example to build with. And we can ask ourselves, instead of being just caught up in my dream of the awfulness of the situation, could I step out of that and think how I might be of use to others in the situation? Do I have an opportunity to make a contribution to the situation? And then, as I said before, we can actually train ourselves so that our dharmas, our dreamlike dharmas, are a better dream, a more positive dream, and a more pleasant one, full of love. And we can do that by practicing the metta bhavana, which changes the way that we see other people, the stories that we tell about other people, and by practicing ethics. And that doesn't work just for ourselves, but for the center, the Sangha, the society at large. We can gradually try and develop a more positive dream. So by seeing all dharmas, all phenomena as dreamlike, we can really start to have more choice over our experience. We can steer our life towards a more helpful, more enjoyable dreaming. And then eventually we will start to wake up from dreaming at all, wake up from our delusions, and we can live a life that is free and joyful.